Ladies and gentlemen, it is the final day of 2023, and we are here with a pretty funny topic to talk about. Now, as you already may know, there's been a lot of speculation over the past few months about Chris Chan having a possible girlfriend. And despite there being numerous pictures posted online of these two going out and gallivanting at a grocery store together, going all around town together, even places like card shops, there wasn't much more on this person. A lot of people, myself included, thought that maybe there were too many eyes on the situation and too many people who wanted to know who this person actually was that they decided to go off the grid for a little bit. And so now apparently this person, who will be referred to as Cabbage Patch from here on out, has decided to go out with Chris again. Now, I don't know if they've been doing this and people just haven't been spotting it in public, but there also was something else I saw last week, that Chris Chan was spotted at an airport waiting for a flight to come in, and a lot of people assumed that the person coming off this flight was Cabbage Patch. So maybe it's a long distance thing and they can't see each other often, but I've always thought the Cabbage Patch was another one of these people in the group The Prater, the group that's currently wrangling Chris and overseeing all of the money that he's making through his streams and everything. I mean, these people were selling stuff on Chris's Etsy shop back when he was in jail. Chris would just send them stuff, they'd put it on there, and there you go. But again, fast forward to now, Chris is out of jail and he's apparently seeing this Cabbage Patch person. And as usual, Chris can't go out in public anywhere without people documenting it, taking pictures, and writing very detailed descriptions about what they saw that day. This isn't something new to Chris. Even though it's been happening seemingly a lot more since he got out of jail, people have always taken pictures of Chris when they spotted him out in the wild. But now it's become a little more prevalent because Chris isn't just locked up inside Branchland Court anymore. He actually has to go do some things for himself now, and so people see him a lot more. But I'll tell you in what situation there's never been a Chris sighting, and that's on a random date, because obviously there's been dates set up by the trolls before. Think of the woman Farron, if you know who that is. Also the whole Pickleman situation. I mean, dates have been doctored up by the trolls, and Chris would go there, they would record it and everything, but for once it seems that Chris is actually on a legit romantic date with somebody. And we'll find out a little bit more about that now, because someone apparently took these pictures, posted them on Reddit, and decided to respond to a bunch of people in the comments. Now, I don't know how to use Reddit, so I found this Kiwi Farms thread that summed up everything that happened on that date, and I'll have it linked in the description below as well if you want to go see it. This does answer some of the questions that I feel like myself and a lot of people have had, so I won't waste any time and get into it. The person says that they're going through the comments and it's too much to post here, but they will catch out all the important info. When asked if they were acting like a couple, he said that they had shared food, but it's hard to tell if they were a couple or if Chris was just a perv. I feel like if you were anybody sitting there observing this situation, whether you know Chris or not, you'd probably have a hard time determining if it was a legitimate situation or if Chris was just getting real touchy with this person. We've all heard and seen how Chris acts around women before, so I wouldn't be too shocked. However, the fact that they're sharing food and all, they've been spotted a bunch of times in public, this person clearly doesn't mind spending time with Chris, and I think at this point it's obvious also that it's not like a caretaker or anything. I say that because I feel like we would see this person with Chris almost every time he's out and not just every couple of months, but I could be wrong on that situation. Chris was stuck looking at another couple, and Flutter, which is what Chris actually calls that person, we only call her Cabbage Patch because he does happen to look like a Cabbage Patch Kid, but Flutter had to get him through the door. Chris was also pissed when the guy asked to take a picture of them, but decided to shake his hand in the end. Now, Chris was probably just trying to avoid a situation where someone was going to take pictures of them, post it online, probably give a detailed experience of what happened that day, and you know, it's really funny to think of that, considering the video that you're watching right now, but, I mean, it's Chris. He thinks he can avoid all these situations, and when he thinks he avoids one, he doesn't know that there's another one sitting like 3 tables away. He didn't catch her name, so I'm assuming the guy was trying to listen in to see if he could catch Flutter's name, and honestly I wouldn't be surprised if the Flutter or the Cabbage Patch person decided to tell Chris, hey, just call me Flutter in public, so that a situation like this doesn't arise and their name gets leaked, because obviously if someone did find who this woman was, you know her information will be out there faster than you could say Cabbage Patch. He is wearing a new version of the classic, one we hadn't seen yet and that's closer to the original design. I wonder why that is. Maybe Chris is just trying to kind of rehash the old glory days, feel like he did when he was young again. Who knows? Maybe he just likes the design and knows that the other shirt was so smoke damage because of the house fire that he can't wear it again. But also, it's Chris Chan. I wouldn't be surprised if he just decided to wear it again. Chris was being pretty loud, as described by the guy as being a shrill motherfucker. Remember, this is a person documenting what the actual dude at the restaurant wrote, so that's what the guy who was there called Chris. But here's the most important one to me, the one that a lot of people have been wondering. Flutter does not seem mentally handicapped, and seemed to keep Chris in check. So, as previously mentioned, I believe that this Flutter or Cabbage Patch person is part of that Prater group, and what they're really there to do is to try to kind of keep Chris under their thumb so he doesn't go off the rails and kind of mess up their money-making machine that they have going on. If she's not part of that, is this like a genuine love interest? I know that sounds crazy to say, ladies and gentlemen. I know you might be already typing the comments saying, Smokey, there's no way any of this is legit. And most times I'd be inclined to agree with you. But, come on, if you know the Chris story, how wild is it that he's out at some random restaurant with some random woman who's maybe not a troll for once, and also it's someone who's not, as Chris would put it, a slow in the mind. Chris has always wanted somebody in his life who was not autistic like him. Chris has said that on numerous occasions, and many people have told him over the years that was never going to happen. You gotta find someone like you, Chris. And if this person, if this Cabbage Patch is genuinely genuine, that's a W for Chris. There's no getting around that. This person, Chris has mentioned before that they are 30 years old, and I've said that for the longest time, that if this is a consenting of age woman, it's way better for Chris than doing what he was doing to Barb all those years ago. Now, on the other hand, could this be just some long con troll of some woman out there to mess with Chris? Maybe she's documenting all this herself to talk about what Chris is like. Highly doubt that one because of what you're about to see in the next in the next thing they said. Plus, there was those really grainy pictures we saw months back where it looked like Chris was trying to kiss her. There are a lot of things that make me feel like this is a legitimate situation, and the only thing holding me back from saying that fully is the fact that it's Chris Chan, ladies and gentlemen. With all the bullshit that's gone on in Chris's life and the amount of women that have been in his life just to turn out to be trolls in the end, which is basically every single one other than his mother and Rocky Shoemaker, well, it's just always really unbelievable to see him in these situations. So if I were to give my opinion on who I think this person is and what their intentions with Chris are, I'll again repeat that I believe they're part of that Prater group, but I think that the reason they're staying this close to Chris is that they don't want anyone else in Chris's life. I don't think they want Chris out there looking for love, talking to all these different women, because they would pull Chris away from the little scheme they got going on. So this Flutter person, or Cabbage Patch, or whatever you really want to call them, they go by many names. But I personally think they're just staying here, going on these dates with Chris, going on these little day trips, just to keep Chris preoccupied, get him to think that he has he's finally completed his love quest, and all he needs to do now is sit there and make money for their future, and Prater gets to take a cut of it. So, I think it makes sense, but you guys let me know in the comments below. The guy goes on to say that they shared a dessert, and Chris hand-fed her a cake. Again, this now goes back to it being a legit relationship. How far is this woman willing to go to try to prove this? Like I said, the grainy kissing picture is one thing, but we haven't seen anything concrete of it. Chris hand-feeding them stuff at a restaurant, I don't know, we're tipping that scale a little bit. Flutter paid. Okay, again, there is where I believe that it's probably not a relationship. This Flutter person was like, oh, Chris, come out, I'll treat you to dinner. If this really was something, I even think someone like Chris Chan has enough mental capacity to know that he should have paid. Who knows, though? He could have paid on their first ever date at McDonald's, and now that they're moved on to the hoity-toity places, it's now her turn to pay. Chris apparently ate spaghetti like a toddler. Again, not surprised. Not surprised. If this woman really is going to be with Chris, at least she knows what she's getting. When asked about her looks, she's definitely an adult. Her face looks mature and kind of wrinkly. If I had to guess, she has something similar to Hasbulla, but not as extreme. If you guys don't know who Hezbollah is, which I'd be incredibly shocked if you don't at this point, this is him. Now, I know if you look at this picture, you think this is just a little kid. I believe Hezbollah is like 19 or 20 years old. So this is an ailment some people have where they look very young, and maybe that is what this Cabbage Patch person has. It would really make sense with the nickname people gave her. The guy later went on to talk about the circumstances of the photo. He asked if he could get a photo, and Chris said no thank you. The person said he was a huge fan and asked to shake his hand, to which Chris obliged. The guy asked again if he could take a quick photo, which is when both Chris and the Cabbage Patch started to act visibly pissed. Chris yelled and made a big scene, and Cabbage Patch pulled Chris away, and they walked away relatively quickly. Now, at that point, you gotta wonder, everything people post on Reddit randomly or anything like that, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. But, I mean, if Chris really did, have a little bit of a freak out there, I'd be surprised if this guy didn't get that on film. But then again, he was apparently standing right in front of Chris, so who am I to say? The guy goes on and ends this by saying that Chris was also very rude to the staff and everything there, but with these pictures that he took, it's kind of tough to say if it didn't happen or not, because the dude was clearly there. He saw Chris, but would he just go to post these pictures online and post a taller tale to make the story more interesting rather than just seeing Chris out at dinner? I don't know, but with the community that's surrounded in, I wouldn't be surprised with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think this is a genuine relationship, or are you like me and you think this is just still some big ploy, maybe just to keep Chris to not go online and look to talk to other people? It seems like that's their main goal, the Praetor, is to get Chris just completely as off the internet as possible, but only put him on there in ways to where he can basically do his streams and he can put up tweets, but no one can reply to him. It's a really weird situation, but they want Chris all to themselves, and as of right now, it seems like they're gonna get it. But shout out to Zeus Blue Thunder on Kiwi Farms for compiling all of that. But again, I just gotta ask you guys to let me know in the comments what you think's happening with this situation. It's been an incredibly interesting year for Chris. Back in March, he was let out of jail, and then months went by where we didn't know anything that was going on. A lot of people wondered if Chris ended up in some group home, and eventually it turned out that that was the case. But at some point down the line when all this was going on, most likely in the beginning of August, around the 2-year anniversary of the Chris Boinking Barb situation, the charges got dropped, and after that point it seemed like Chris's return to online activity happened really quick. These people must have had Chris there for a little while just waiting for a situation like this to happen, and when it did, they seized it, because right now, ladies and gentlemen, I've brought this up before, but Chris Chan streams like once or twice a week, and people just throw money at him. I'm talking donation after donation. They're really happy to see Chris, someone who did what he did to his mother, just get a big payday every time he comes online. It's a lot of low effort weaning by these people, trying to get Chris to say the N-word in different creative ways, but it never ends up going their way, and at the end of it, you just ended up paying this guy for no reason. It's gonna happen till the end of time, and these Praetor people are really trying their damnedest to capitalize on it. It'll be interesting to see where Chris's story goes in 2024, but I can't imagine it's really that much of a crazy one. I've said it on my podcast with Kiwi Tapes that I do, that, I believe that at some point this year, my big prediction is that Chris Chan ends up back at Branchland. Somewhere, some way, things fall through with the Praetor, and Chris decides, hey, you know what, I might as well just waltz on back home. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but we'll have to see. So ladies and gentlemen, have a great new year, and I will see y'all in 2024. And until then, everyone take care, have a great rest of your night, and just stay safe, ladies and gentlemen. This time of year can get a little hectic, people can get a little crazy around the new year, but I hope to see y'all all back, all safe, all well in the next one. And until then, have a great and happy life, ladies and gentlemen. And just remember, at the end of the day, when you think things are getting really bad for you, it could always be worse. You could be Chris Chan.